are extremely fragile people. They are inexperienced, unaware, and often lacking in knowledge around the legal system. It is for this reason that children and young people must be given special considerations when framing the laws. It is extremely important that all of these considerations are taken into account when creating laws, as children are the future of all societies.
Hi, Tom Saint here, reporting from the ABC News Australia Network. I'm here with Mr. Faker Name. A police officer who has dealt with many cases involving young people, who is going to tell us a bit about the children and their status in the law.
Yeah, right, so a child or young person is considered as any person under the age of 18 in Australia. Now, this definition is given to us by the UN in the Act of the Conventions of the Rights of the Child, which gives children special considerations. Yeah.
And why are children given these special considerations?
Well, mate, children are given these considerations because they're deemed to be not fully aware of the world and their minds are not fully developed yet, in which means their decision making might be impaired slightly and they need age to learn about all the laws of life. Plus, there are better ways to tell a child off, as they have a better chance really of changing because they have more control over their life, mate. Yeah.
It is for these reasons that the laws and governments have had to respond effectively to the range of issues concerning children and young people, covering specific areas such as legislation, court proceedings, policing matters, and welfare considerations.
Well, here we are with a man who works with the Australian government, and he's going to tell us a bit about the legislation surrounding children.
Under legislation of the Conventions of the Rights of a Child, it says that a child under the age of 10 is presumed unable to intentionally commit a crime. Legislation is often delegated to certain groups that can help create laws surrounding young people, as they are covering a more specialist area, which means they can adhere to the rights of a child more effectively and consistently. Legislation created around children must always take into account the idea that they can still bounce back as people because of their youth. So many laws are set up to give young people a second chance by creating certain sanctions such as community service or fines.
It is the aim of the law to keep children out of the courts as much as they possibly can by implementing less harmful sanctions, but sometimes the court is where a matter needs to be dealt with. Here we get to interview a judge who is going to tell us a bit about the court proceedings around children.
It is the role of the Children's Court to hear most juvenile cases, but in the circumstance of something more serious like murder or sexual assault, the case is moved up to a higher court. The main role of the court is to divert children away from things like prison time by implementing sanctions such as community service or fines. This is important as it decreases a young person's exposure to the real criminal world, and there are a number of sanctions that help to deter young people. For example, for minor crime, they can be dismissed if the young person takes an undertaking of good behavior. The harshest sentence is sending a young person to a youth detention center, but the court always tries to avoid that sanction where possible.
A young person is obviously treated more mercifully in an area of policing. In terms of interrogation, the young person must have a guardian present, or it is not allowed unless permission has been given. Young people should only be kept in custody as a last resort, and police have alternatives to arresting the child, such as giving them cautions or a warning, which works for more minor cases. When dealing with children and young people and their welfare, it is the most important aspect of the law surrounding children. The aim of the legal system is to frame legislation that takes into account the age and the development and the knowledge of the young person, and as it is recognised that a young person has a better chance of changing their attitudes to better fit in with the law. One department that takes children's welfare very seriously is the Department of Community Services. They look into things like child abuse and neglect in order to help young people have better lives. They also help young people better understand the law and proceedings by providing information to troubled youths. As you can see, the law does a lot in framing legislation around children in order to provide them with maximum justice so that they grow into Australia in a positive manner. That's all from me, folks. Back to you, Tracy, with the weather forecast.
Alright, we're done here. Let's pack it up, boys. Let's go home.